I can't help thinking that, is that really the real Aarti? Is it really me? Because let me tell you who the real Aarti is. Last month, I had my 33rd romance novel release. That's book number 33. Now, you would think that someone who has written 32 books before would actually know what it is to please the reader enough to make them buy and review my book. You would be wrong, because in the first 15 days of actually launching this particular book, I was completely clobbered. People really did not like this book, and the sales and reviews both reflected this fact. So for a hot second, actually, my awesome outreach business partner who's sitting somewhere over there will attest that it was more like the first 15 days, I sulked, I moped, I outraged at the heavens, like, how come people who loved me so long couldn't love this particular book? But then, my businesswoman brain came back online, took charge, and said, okay, so this book that you've slaved over through the pandemic that might have actually saved your sanity during the lockdown has been universally panned. So for being too gritty, for being too violent, and too confusing. So what now, as it says over there? That, ladies and gentlemen, is what I'm here to talk about. The highs and lows of creating a story worth telling, the peaks and plunging valleys of running my own small business while also being a creator, how each climb out of the pit of burnout and exhaustion and difficult decisions is actually made easier because the human brain is a magical and mystical thing, as all of the amazing speakers before me have told you. But I'm actually also here to tell you that writing is a skill and storytelling is an art. One can be mastered and the other needs to be nurtured. The trick is knowing which is which almost on a daily basis. But now let's cut to 2008 when I was learning to be a writer myself. A few quick facts before that. I started reading from the age of 7 when my mom gifted me a library card for my birthday. I asked myself the question of whether I should be writing a book myself because I was so in love with the words created by Enid Blyton, Caroline Keene, Franklin W. Dixon, Sidney Sheldon, Nora Roberts, Daniel Steele, and all the greats. But it was still 4 more years later when this solidified into this grand dream that I had, that I wanted to write a romance novel and have it published by Milson Boone and Harlequin India, which is the largest romance publisher in the whole world. Now, I get asked this question quite a lot, like, why did I choose to write romance? And the reason is very simple. You should always first start writing what you know and what you read. And what I love reading and what I love knowing was romance. It's fun, it's honest, it comes with a guaranteed happy ever after, which is not guaranteed in real life. And there's a lot of sex in it. So, yeah, that's the reason why I decided to go and write romance. And then you have a baby me who is like 16 years old, just writing this first book by hand, really, really badly. Cut to 2008, and I'm not telling you how old I am right now, where no. Okay, so cut to 2008, and I go to Australia to finally learn the art and craft of writing a sellable novel, which is a novel that will actually get published. At the end of the first semester, my literary fiction professor calls me into the office and hands me my semester assignment, which was a short story that I'd written for the class, and it had a big fat F on it. For the uninitiated, literary fiction is Arundhati Roy, Jhumpa Lahiri, and William Dalrymple. Commercial fiction is Chetan Bhagat and Aarti V. Raman. So, there I was, sitting in my professor's office, and she very kindly tells me, Aarti, I don't think you should be a novelist. You can go try your hand at other parts of the media business. I was crushed and heartbroken because there I was having these grand dreams since I was a child, and all of these dreams were dashed on the rocks of harsh reality. That was the first and only time in my life that I actually decided to drown my sorrows in alcohol. So I bought 2 bottles of red wine, I took them back to my room, and I downed one of them in the bath. Then I vented and complained to anybody who would listen that this is my teacher. She told me that I can't be a writer. Now, what am I going to do with my life? But then, in the middle of all of this venting, I actually also started listening to what the people around me were telling me back. And it woke up a little bit of courage in the depths of my sloshed brain. And I asked myself this: what if I was the heroine of my own romance novel? Would I allow like one villain? She really wasn't a villain, so I'm so sorry, Rachel. But would I allow one villain to tell me my story and deny me my dream? Or would I actually take charge and fight back? So in true romance heroine fashion, that's what I did. I poured myself a huge glass of Merlot, I downed it in one go, and then I pounded out 50 pages of overnight of what would eventually become my first published novel, which was called White Knight. Now, before the organizers accuse me of gross self-promo, I will tell you this, that this book is not available for publication or purchase at this moment, so please don't come and ask me about it. But what's more important is the lesson over here, isn't it? Don't allow anybody else to tell you what your story is. You get to tell it to yourself every single time. In fact, I will go so far as to say that you should be telling it to yourself every single time. I will now fast forward to 5 years later. It's a thing that we do in books and movies, where we complete 1 year of my publishing journey, where I've written the book. I've written the whole book after the first 50 pages. I've sold it to a publisher, and it's been out for a whole year. And in this whole year, the book sold a grand total of 6 copies. That's it, 6 copies. And these 6 copies were actually purchased by my loyal girlfriends whom I've known since college and who I actually practiced my storytelling skills on. Like I treated them like the heroines of their own romances, and I wrote these stories for them. And they bought my book. The wider reading audience did not know who Aarti V. Raman was, and they didn't care at all. And I will say this, that the reason for this is what most writers tell themselves at some point, which is, I did not know how to market my book. But in truth, it actually confirmed this secret fear that I had, which is something comprising the voices of friends and families and well-wishers who all told me that writing is a nice hobby, Aarti, but keep your real-world job. So I listened to them, and I kept at my real-world job. And of editing, and I was a business journalist for a few years. But I would still continue writing stories in the middle of the night, and I honed my craft to within an inch of its life. And all the time, I just prayed to the gods to grant me my inevitable bestseller-dom that I kind of thought was like this cool club that I wasn't worthy enough to enter. But the truth, by the way, it's not. It's actually a lot of hard work, a ton of grinding, and a mountain of perseverance. But I learned all of these lessons a little later. In year 2 of my publishing journey, I did have one of my childhood dreams come true. I was able to properly debut in the Indian market scene with a dream deal with my dream publisher, which was Millicent Boone and Harlequin. And thank you. So I was able to do everything right this time. I had a Facebook page and a Twitter account. I was able to leverage and talk to readers and blogger friends, and they all really loved the book. But to this day, everybody thinks that my first book, which is Kingdom Come, is actually my debut novel, because no one knew about the dud that came before that. And that's the thing, right? And that's the thing. So after that, I was still unhappy with everything that was going on, because I had this dream book launch. I was able to launch my book in multiple stores and cities. I had a lot of media mentions, which is something every author craves. And people and readers generally really loved the story of this vengeful ex-MI5 spy who falls in love with the Kashmiri real estate manager, who is also suspected of being a terrorist sister. But none of this really helped answer the question that I was trying to answer for myself, which is, am I worthy of being a writer? So I did something really, really scary after that. I also went into business with myself. I became the CEO of my own business. Up till now, I had actually been just a traditionally published author, wherein you don't actually have any control over the publishing process. So whether it's the cover or the title, the word count even, the price and the release and distribution schedule are not decided by the author. But we are, of course, expected to hustle our best and even sacrifice baby goats to the gods in order to get our books out in the bookstores and become a bestseller success. But nothing like that happened. And we are actually not guaranteed any job safety or the fact that a publisher might retain us without, because that's something that most mid-list authors don't have, that kind of guarantee. And at the work front too, I was working at an awesomely cool job at the media house. I was severely unhappy. I was definitely stressed. I was burning the candle on both ends. And worst of all, my stories were going with my bylines, which means they had my name, but the publisher was reaping all the monetary benefits as well as all the glory. So I decided to take a hard look at my savings and had just about enough to sustain me for a year. And that's what I did. I went into business with myself. I became the CEO of my own little company. And in that first year, which by the way was where I had absolutely no clue what I was doing, I was still able to write, edit, and release 8 books, all of with an average word count of about 70,000 to 1 lakh words. And not one single reader complained that, oh my God, this book was so long and this book was so short. Nobody said anything. That was a lesson for me. But something even more incredible happened. I was able to hit the Amazon Top 100 on Amazon Top 100 with a little book that I kind of actually forgot about after publishing it. It came out in May 2018, and I was actually busy promoting another book because you have to do that. You have to be constantly promoting your books. And a reader comes and tells me in June that your books actually hit the Amazon Top 100. It was number 81 or 51, I don't remember. And I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised, and I was flabbergasted. And the best part was that my rankings were reflected online, but my royalties actually reflected this in fact. So that's when I realized that being a bestseller was not some cool club. It was, just getting the whole writing and reading process right. The reader experience had to be perfectly right. Whether it's the cover or the title, the actual story, the blurb, the first line, and every line thereafter. Like, everything had to be right. This first time, it kind of happened by chance because I wasn't really paying attention to it. But to be honest, every time after that, I've really tried to give my readers that kind of fulfilling reader experience so that they end up loving me more and more. So the lesson here is very simple. Like, you can shock and comfort the reader so that they will devour your work. But if you continue to do so over and over again, your author brand will actually build itself. And so you don't have to really do all that much in the name of marketing. Very recently, for researching a hero of mine, I watched a Tamil movie called Hero. That pun wrote itself, by the way. And in this movie, a very hot and villainous Abhay Deol says that we are in the business of creating educated labor and not creative geniuses. And this is so depressingly true, isn't it? Our existing systems of growth and learning are all geared towards making us blindly obey, like be a doctor or be an engineer. Do not try and move away from this established lane. And us trying to do that, to question ourselves, to be curious about things, and to actually embrace failure as this just stepping stone towards success, we are like branded failures because we're trying to do that. We're not taught to adapt. And it kind of happened with me too, because there I was in year 2 doing all of these fabulous things with the books, and I actually ended up releasing my most popular novel till date. I sold its right to Bollywood for adaptation, so that's happened. And it was... I sold its right to Bollywood for adaptation, and I was celebrated as a writer par excellence. Everybody loved this book. But inside, I was still feeling like I was a failure because I was constantly comparing myself to people who are more established than me. I was looking at social media numbers and thinking that that was the whole picture, when it's really not. There's a lot of heartbreak and hard work that goes into what it is that we do, which is create books and stories. But you know, I had a massive breakdown and a burnout session back then, and then the pandemic hit. So a quick breakdown and a whole pandemic later, I discovered that the existing belief systems, the way that I was doing things and approaching them, is not going to work out for me anymore. I needed to change everything about myself. So that's what I did. I decided to take better decisions every single day, bit by bit, little by little. I laughed. Sorry, I did not laugh. I was crying a lot of the time. I was swearing, and I was really hoping. And I did the one thing that we are all supposed to do, which is that I listened to my mom. And I was finally I was finally able to silence my inner critic, at least to the extent that it wasn't hampering my growth or my learning, and definitely not my happy ever after. And it's this belief that I've had so far that's kind of kept me going, because what this belief did was it taught me to risk big and fail in the public eye, because whatever we do as authors happens in the public eye. It taught me to get out of my comfort zone and actually approach more established authors and ask them the silliest of questions, because stuff that I did not know the answer to, and hope that they wouldn't reject me. And not one of them did. They were all very kind to me. It taught me to try and create a network of supportive entrepreneurs who all would knowledge share unstintingly and not feel so competitive or jealous of each other. It taught me to actually treat my business like a business. So I learned to be way more objective about it. I was able to make better decisions. I was able to do like this bird eye zoom out, wherein I would just look at a thing and see, okay, it's not working, because books became my products, and a product requires packaging, which is your cover, your title, and you don't become too attached to anything. And then the packaging and the product requires marketing. And I did not have any excuse anymore to not market the crap out of my own books. Excuse my French. So there I was, and this is exactly all I've done for the past 16 months, because the first and foremost thing that I needed to do was to learn to blindly, absolutely, and ruthlessly just believe in myself, because that is the key to everything else. Because I was able to convince myself somehow that one day, someday, through all of these bad days and burnouts and bombed releases, I would actually accomplish all of those dreams that a 12-year-old or a 16-year-old Aarti actually had. I would become a bestseller. But I did it like not just once, I did it 22 times. Over the past 16 months, this is what I have actually held on to. As I wrote edited and released my most best-selling series till date, and I sent it to the moon, and it's going to the moon not just once, it's going twice, once in 2022, once in 2023. I actually am, thank you. I tightened my storytelling brand so that the reader experience is consistent and seamless every single time, which kind of helps when you want to hit those bestseller lists. And I actually released another series, and I was able to do this one with no burnouts, no breakdowns, and just the sheer faith and confidence that everything will work out. Now, this is exactly the faith and the belief that I've been holding on to for the past 1 month when book number 33 completely bombed. This book was ironically called Ruin, and I've always said that it's the ruin of me. But the truth is, it's just a book. It's one book out of 33. So when I finally was able to put my big girl pants back on, I just did a bird's eye zoom out. I became very objective, changed the parts of the product that I could, and then I just let it go. Because that's the hardest thing in the world to do, is to just let it go. It actually ended up hitting Amazon top 150, and it stayed there for a couple of days, so it is a legit bestseller. But more than that, the thing is that I was able to silence my own inner critic, the one that kept saying that, Aarti, you're a failure because you're not as good as Nora Roberts or whoever. I was able to do that. And I was able to face this particular what now moment with courage and bravery and a lot of grace, and this belief that, no matter how dark and heavy the cloud may be today, tomorrow the rainbows are going to come out when the sun peeks out. And I hope with all of my heart that you guys also tell yourself this story every single day, because it is a story that's worth telling yourself over and over again. Thank you.